Hey Wargamers, Games Workshop released a preview of the upcoming Kill Team expansion Into the Dark, which, by the way, great name. And it is set on a space hulk where we have Imperial Navy and Kroot coming together in conflict. And so, really cool setting. Glad that's something other than Gene Stealers. But today we are getting a full preview of the box content, including the different rule books and all the tokens and dice and everything like that. But most importantly, we got a full preview of the complete Kroot kill team, and this is something that I've been jazzed about. Since they announced that they were going to be doing new kill teams, I've been looking forward to a new Kroot kill team because it really seemed like this was the way that they were going to introduce new Kroot, and it just made sense. And so it's finally come to fruition that we're getting new Kroot models at long last. We had the initial castings, initial sculpts of Kroot Carnivores, Kroot Hounds, and Kroot Ox. All of those have remained unchanged since their inception. And with the exception of Daek Rek a little bit ago, and then Angkor Proc, the old Games Day model, those are the only other new Kroot models we have ever had. So a whole slew of 10 new Kroot models is just really exciting for someone that's been playing with Kroot since they've been released. So I'm super pumped about these new models. Let's jump in and take a look at each set of two. They're releasing the preview in twos. So we'll go through each of these images and talk a little bit about what these things are and what they might mean for the next release of Kroot. Because a lot of these kill teams end up staying in the box for a long time, in the kill team box for a long time, but then they'll be released as independent kits somewhere down the line. When will that be? Who freaking knows? But eventually it will happen, and James Workshop will come to collect his funds from us through that reissuing of them as an independent unit and not just in the kill team box. So if you're not in a kill team, fear not. You will eventually be able to get these guys as their own box, just not anytime soon. Okay, so like I said, there's 10 models that are released here. Some of them we've seen before when they made the initial announcement of Into the Dark. But here we're getting all those dudes plus some other dudes and notably dudettes. I don't know if dude is a general gender neutral term or not. However you think about that, we have 10 new models. To begin with, we have the Kroot Shaper, which really maintains the same posing as the current Kroot Shaper, which is really cool. He still has his Shaper blade, his knife, and just like the current Kroot Shaper, he can take a pulse rifle, which is very cool. I really love this sculpt. It includes a lot of those familiar elements, including the pose and the war gear, but also many of the visual elements are similar to things that we've seen in the earlier Kroot model. So it does pay homage to a lot of those design choices. And one of the things that we see in both of these models are these kind of like leather shin guards. They're like, I don't know if there's a technical term for that or not, but these rolls of fabric or leather that they have around their legs, which I think is a really nice way of breaking up the model. So you don't just have all leg, because Kroot are very leggy models for one thing. But it also is, really practical if you think about, these guys aren't wearing a ton of armor. They are going to be going through either, dense jungle terrain or places like Space Hulks in this example that could have a lot of dangerous pokey bits that could scrape their leg. And having that protection on their leg is a nice, thoughtful feature, a good design element that I think works really well. And it's just fun to paint a different color. A nice opportunity to provide some contrast to the rest of the model. So cool. We have lots of leather, lots of bags, lots of belts. That's kind of the deal for Kroot. And a lot of people, the existing Kroot Carnivore kit includes tons of bits that a lot of people just don't use. Some of that is because they don't necessarily fit on the model in a totally intuitive way. But these kits are going to be monopose. They're going to be, really easy to put together. And so it's a nice thing that they've included that complexity here. The other dude that we have, again, has those leg shins and everything. I think he's just like a normal Kroot Carnivore. He doesn't seem to have anything particularly special about his war gear. One thing that I like about his design here is his necklace, which again is straight out of the existing Kroot carnivore kit. That little triangle necklace is something that's super common in those existing sculpts. So too with his kind of like little leather vest that he's wearing. Those are totally out of the book, out of the existing kit. We also have like ammo and grenades and pistols and all that stuff. That's all part of the existing kit. So I really think like these two characters are meant to be kind of what's old is new again. This is the design team's reiteration of the things that have made Kroot a beloved sculpt to begin with. All right, these next two are a little different. They are more innovative compared to the previous two models. And the big standout is the crossbow gun that this fella down on the bottom has. Now, this unit, the kill team, is called the Farstalker Kin Band, which, by the way, side note, I don't know why they're calling it Kin Band instead of a Kindred. Usually they have referred to units of Kroot, groups of Kroot, as kindreds that are led by a shaper who shapes the Kroot's evolution by selecting their diet. If you're unfamiliar with Kroot lore, basically that Kroot absorb genetic material that's and are really genetically malleable. That's how you get things like Kroot Hounds or Kroot oxen. We'll talk about that again in a moment when we get to that new Kroot Hound. But the shaper shapes the evolution of the kindred and therefore, basically determines the size and shape and attributes of the kindred. So it's interesting that they've abandoned the word kindred here and have selected kin band. I don't know why that is, but that reiterates the fact that this unit is not going to be just Kroot carnivores in the codex. It will probably be its own separate entry that you can take. You can take a unit of Kroot carnivores, and then you can take a unit that is the Farstalker kin band. And so these gents in here that have special weapons will be isolated to that special unit entry as opposed to the generalist Kroot carnivore unit entry would be my guess, right? There's counterexamples to this, of course, like the Pathfinder upgrade kit. Those aren't a special Pathfinder unit in the codex. They had some of their unique war gear folded in to the standard Pathfinder unit entry. And so maybe we'll see the same thing with Kroot carnivores, but given some of the more unique elements of this, especially because they are entirely new kit as opposed to being, an upgrade sprue, I would tend to think that this is going to be its own unit entry, like we've seen with some of the other earlier kill teams that they've released. So here, Crossbow Dude probably is going to be his own thing, would be my guess. And who knows what that thing is supposed to do. It looks like it would hurt. It looks really, really cool. So I'm excited for that for sure. He's, again, got a lot of familiar stuff on him. Something that I think is interesting for both of these two is they have the, robotic eye. And I'm not sure what the deal is with that. They did that with Dayak Grek. Dayak Grek has this same eye thing going on. It's not my favorite. I like my Kroot with their organic biological eyes. I think it just kind of fits better for me. But yeah, these dudes have it. They also have a slightly different skin tone than the rest of the Kroot. So I don't know if there's supposed to be a story there about who these two are, if maybe they're from a different kindred than the rest of them, or what the deal is. But it's interesting. I hope that there's a story there that explains why these two have their robotic eyes and are slightly different than the rest. The dude in back, right? He's kind of more like a pistolier kind of guy. Super cool. Love his cloak. He has knee pads, right? And like, I don't know, he's got the leg things and the knee pads. I think that makes a lot of sense. Why do the other Kroot not have knee pads? Like, why are I understand like your knees have to be cut out from the machine guard because of the bendiness, the joint there. But I don't know. I'm just saying, let's protect our Kroot's knees. Let's make it happen. Next up, we got two more dudes. I think the guy on the bottom, again, is probably just going to be a standard carnivore. It doesn't look like his rifle is particularly special. It doesn't have the blade on the front is the biggest thing that I can notice on that, right? Is that it looks much like a Kroot rifle. It has kind of this thing on the bottom that's different. I don't know if, maybe that's just a design element, or maybe that's functional. We'll have to wait and find out. But yeah, it doesn't have the blade on front, which is weird. It's just weird. It makes it feel more like a Kroot gun instead of a Kroot rifle, perhaps. Maybe he actually has a Kroot gun, and we just can't tell because of the perspective on the model. We'll have to find out. And then above him, we have what's clearly a sniper, which would be excellent to see back in a unit of Kroot. 6th edition, they had the ability to fire sniper rounds. That was just a lot of fun, really thematic, something that hadn't really been in the wheelhouse of Kroot before. It really made them feel more like scrappy bird people instead of kind of these more ferocious hand-to-hand combatants. And they've swung the pendulum in the other way now, right? That Kroot carnivores don't have this sniper functionality, but they really are meant to be more close combat oriented. Which is something that the Tau benefit from. So it's nice to see that sniper element reintroduced here, and cool pose, right? Not a lot going on with the model. It's very simple, right? Notice there's not a lot of war gear besides the rifle and the cloak, but it's cool. And again, we see this hook down at the bottom that is kind of one of those underutilized elements of the existing Kroot Carnivore kit. Okay, these two I think are the biggest diversions from the norm here. So let's talk about the Kroot Hound first. Kroot Hound, yes, I love Kroot Hounds. Let's get more Kroot Hounds. Freaking awesome. He's got a little harness. He got his little Kroot Hound vest, right? Like, people got those little harnesses for their dogs. The Kroot do too. Cool. Awesome. He's got a little satchel. It works, right? This is what I like. But what is with his face? It looks so stubby, right? And so this is where we're going to get into kind of more of the lore about Kroot evolutions and Kroot kindred. So as I was saying, Shapers shape the evolution of their kindred by selecting their diets. And so it's totally within the norm, or within the existing lore, that a shaper could select a diet for their Kroot hounds to appear very different from Kroot hounds in other kindreds. That's totally fair game. And so either in this instance, Games Workshop is kind of redesigning the basic body plan of the Kroot Hound to have a much stubbier face. Personally, I really like the elongated face of the existing Kroot Hounds, but this is totally something that they could be doing, is shifting away from that and going for the stubbier face, or it could just be part of the lore for the Far Starker kin band, is that their shaper is just like, no, I don't want long, snouty hounds. I want short, stubby-faced hounds. He's more of a pug guy, right? So these are like the pug version of a Kroot hound, I guess. And yeah, like, okay, cool. The sculpt is awesome either way. And it also kind of fits with some of the lore about how Kroot hounds originated, right? Kroot hounds, Kroot ox, were at one point very similar to Kroot carnivores, but were over-specialized in their diet and kind of ended up in these evolutionary dead ends where they kind of just became stuck being Kroot ox or Kroot hounds, as opposed to being more sentient humanoid Kroot that we call Kroot carnivores. So it's possible that this change to the skull morphology of the Kroot hound is really meant to reflect that history, that, hey, these were once Kroot carnivores and they just look a little different now, right? Because this face is much more comparable to the skull morphology of a Kroot carnivore compared to the existing Kroot hound sculpt. So maybe they're thinking about that in this, and maybe this is the reason that they're going in that direction, is to try to make the Kroot hounds look more like Kroot carnivores. Very cool. Yeah, so I'm just excited that there's new Kroot Hounds and they're spiky dog boys. Very cool. The other dude here, for one thing, doesn't have a freaking gun. He's a scrappy, stabby boy, or girl, right? Again, we don't know. I remember way back in the day they had for White Dwarf they had Ask Dirty Steve, which was like a column in the White Dwarf magazines where you could write in questions and stuff, and you could email questions in too, of course, and they would respond to those emails and they would publish a subset of those emails, presumably. And I wrote in multiple times asking about Kroot stuff because, well, you shouldn't be surprised by that, I guess. I wrote in multiple times to ask about Kroot stuff, and they were like, listen, this is how Kroot reproduction works. Like, they all look the same. There's no difference between male and female Kroot. They all look the same on the outside, and they mate by like sharing genetic material through their hands, like on the back of their necks or something like that. Yeah, anyway, something like that. And it was really kind of this abstract, kind of Wizards did it explanation for Kroot biology, which was totally fine for me. It's a game. We don't have to overthink it. But yeah, that totally fits with what they've done. So whether that was just a one-off email that they didn't really elaborate on, or if there's actually like kind of a consistent lore for Kroot in the background behind the scenes at Games Workshop, who knows? But yeah, so it fits. This dude here, again, we're just gonna go with dude, is scrappy, right? He doesn't have a gun, but he does have this awesome like pick, this hammer, which is really cool. I love that. It reminds me a lot of the old Inquisitor model. So back in the day, there was a larger scale miniature game called Inquisitor, and it had a bunch of characters. It wasn't unit based. It was a larger scale, like kind of skirmish game, and they had one Kroot mercenary model in it, and this dude isn't posed exactly like that, and he's certainly not equipped like that, but it just reminds me of that. And yeah, I'll put a picture of that thing up on the screen too. But very cool. Lots of hooks, lots of leather. Just I'm not sure if he's supposed to be kind of a part, like a part of the story with the Kroot Hound, like if he's like the Hound Master or something like that. But either way, awesome sculpt. All right, these two, we know at least one of them is female, and that is the huntress, or the tracker, down here on the bottom. We know that she's female because Games Workshop said she was like yesterday or something like that. So very cool. Again, no obvious physical differences between Kroots of different sexes. I mean, maybe there's supposed to be an inference here based on like cheekbone size. Like her face looks a little bit rounder, maybe, but that could be individual variation too. Who knows? Or it could just be the angle of the sculpt. Whatever. We don't need to overthink it. He says in like a half-hour video talking about Kroot models. We have a Kroot bird, a Kroot hawk. It's called a Peck-Ra, right? Which Peck is the planet that Kroot originate from. Petch. I don't know, whatever, however you want to say that. Yeah, so cool. We got a bird. We got a Kroot bird that has feathers. Awesome. And four eyes for reasons. Again, Kroot biology is malleable. But she looks awesome. I love the pose. I love the fact that she has just like a really nice Kroot rifle. It just looks good. And then the dude behind her, dang. Now, I hope you like crossbow weapons, because apparently that's what Kroot get. It's like energy, or this isn't energy. It clearly looks like it has ammunition, like projectiles or something like that. So, I don't know. It's like looks like a giant, like kind of heavy bolter type deal, which is awesome. I really want to know what this thing does, and I hope it's really aggressive. I hope it's way better than a Kroot gun, because it looks way better than a Kroot gun, and has clearly this isn't just Kroot technology, right? Based on kind of the casings in it and stuff. It seems different. So yeah, I want to know what's going on with this dude. Yeah, I like how they kind of painted his beak to almost suggest like a goatee. And I know that's not like anything unique for him here, but just when I look at this paint job, I feel like he has a goatee, even though there's not really a good reason for that. Both these models, awesome. All right, and last up we have another Kroot Hound, which again, it has a bit more of an elongated face. So again, I don't know if that other one is a perspective issue or if they are trying to really go for that variation here. Either way, it's cool. I love it. Yeah, more Kroot Hounds, please. I'm happy with whatever we get. And then the other Kroot here is just a badass. Like, really, what are you supposed to say about that? The skull here kind of reminds me of an assassin or something like that. But yeah, just tons of cool stuff. Lots of callbacks to existing Kroot kits. He's got a peg leg, which is cool. Like bionic stuff is generally neat to see, especially on Kroot. Like it just feels thematic for them to have kind of these augmentations as they these more mechanical augmentations, not high tech replacements or anything like this. More crude kind of mechanical replacements. Just kind of fits with the Kroot aesthetic. He's got the shoulder pad. I don't think we've seen a ton of really great shoulder pads. Let me just double check here while I'm talking. But yeah, there's some shoulder pads, but not as many, right? Not that many shoulder pads, which, come on, this is 40k. You got to have shoulder pads. And the existing Kroot Carnivore kit definitely has shoulder pads, which is like their main thing. So cool. I'm glad we see a shoulder pad and some cloaks here. He's got an eye patch instead of a bionic eye. Interesting choice. Like, why does he not have a bionic eye and the other ones do? He has a bionic leg, I guess. So whatever. Yeah, and again, the standard kind of Kroot rifle with some cartridges strapped around the outside there. Yeah, but just guys, if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm really excited about this. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for these guys? How do you think they might translate into 40k? Whatever your thoughts are, let's have a conversation about it. And as always, thanks for watching and happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This channel is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our community over there as well. Special thanks to Jack and Acker, Mate Monk, A Little Pink Monster, Durza, Ever Keller, Robbie Goodwin, Jose Gomez, Drew Pratley, Michael Burns, Zealous Brimstone, Scott Heater, Stephen Cohen, Jared Egler, Chris Kessler, and Shifty.